Sonic, the heart of your system.
I'm Neil Wood for Kit Guru, here with PHANTEKS at the Hyatt at Computex. We have got a lot of stuff to see in this suite, but that's always true of PHANTEKS. It's been true for the last 5 years. Over there, give them a quick sneak peek, we've got LUXE 2. That's the big finish. We're going to finish there. We're going to start here. This is a simple rebranded power supply, AMP. Gold rated power supplies, 550, 650, 750 watts. They are a simple rebrand of the Focus Plus from Sonic, and the explanation is that you can buy a dual power supply system from PHANTEKS, in which case you need a second power supply, and the question for PHANTEKS is which power supply do I buy, so they wanted to have an answer, which is buy this. So that's what AMP is all about. Dead straightforward, a rebadge of Focus Plus. We like Focus Plus. Over here, we have cheap cases. All the cases in this room are launching in August. We've also got some liquid cooling kit launching in July. So if you hear any other dates out of my mouth, I got it wrong. What we have here is P360X, which is a subtle redesign of the 350. We now have a vertical graphics card mount, but you'll notice loads of separation from the glass, which means that you can put your card in without choking it. If we look here, that is the mount, and that mount installs without any modification, dead straight forward. Also, if you look at the front panel, you'll see RGB coming through those slits, which also flow air. You can actually count the LEDs if you want. I spent a few minutes doing that just for some bizarre reason. So you have RGB from the front, and then when you come around the front, you can see the RGB effect is actually quite subtle. And being PHANTEKS, you have no software. And then we have the P400A. Now this is a case I initially looked at and thought, okie dokie, it's a budget case. It looks perfectly decent. You got it in black or in white. Thank you very much. And then I was having a conversation and I took a closer look. And this is what I saw. We pull off the front panel, which I'll put on here. And you notice this mesh front, which has got, I don't know how many perforations, but an awful lot. If you look, it is continuous. That is not a piece of mesh that's attached to a frame. That front has been made from one piece of steel. It is made of one single sheet of steel. An awful lot of holes are punched. Obviously, a great many holes at one go, so it's like ka-dook, 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 ka-dook. I don't know how many goes, but not that many, so lots of holes in each go, and then the sheet is bent, and then it's formed at the back. But that is actually cheaper than doing it in the conventional way, which is you attach a piece of mesh to a frame. I like that a great deal, and of course it doubles up as a filter. It's genius. That is good design at work. So these are 69. This, the more glitzy version of P400A, is 89. Admittedly, we're in the realms of pounds, euros, dollars, but never mind that. We're still talking perfectly reasonably cheap. This is shown with a bunch of RGB. However, it comes with these 3 RGB fans in the front, which come through the mesh beautifully. But you do not get that rear fan. 3 intakes, no exhaust as standard. And obviously we've got more RGB going on the CPU cooler. So in the event you put an AIO in the roof, that would be your exhaust. To my mind, that is not necessarily a complete configuration as it comes, but nonetheless, you're getting a lot for your money. That mesh front panel, that's good. Shift Air is, as the name suggests, an evolution of the Shift ITX, which recently won the EHA 2019 ITX Case Award. The difference is the side panel. So that's the original tempered glass. And if we come around here, and we look at that side panel there, we see its fabric, and we look here and we see the same fabric panel. The point is the fabric panel is interchangeable with the glass, so if you have a shift, you can take off your glass, you can put on your fabric. Now we saw this prototyped at Computex last year, we saw it again at CES, and they've been obviously working on the fabric to make sure they get the correct material. If I pull it, does it come off? Thank goodness, I was about to break it. It looks like, actually the material to my eyes looks like they're Skechers trainers. Other brands are available. So it doubles up as both you can see through it if the RGB is on, and it filters air and passes air. So your solid glass panel becomes a filtered panel, but you still get a certain amount of RGB goodness. I've just woken this system here, so if we come around and we look through the side panel, and we can see the RGB are working away. So obviously not quite as much lighting effect as you get with glass, but still no complaints there. Moving along the line, we have two demo systems built into the Elite case that we've seen in the past. Monstrously expensive, monstrously large, the largeness being significant because these are 28-core desktop or high-end desktop Intel Xeons. The board here is the Asus ROG Dominus. The board here is the new one from Gigabyte. We've just seen that at the Gigabyte suite. Apart from that, Frank, it's just a showcase for PHANTEKS hardware. I say just. So we've got custom VRM coolers on both boards, obviously different coolers because they're different boards, and we've got a whole custom loop of PHANTEKS hardware. They've been kind enough to put a Radeon graphics card in that system, and yes, this is GeForce RTX in here, so they're being hardware agnostic in terms of graphics, but everything else is very much that Intel 28 core. Rigid tubing in the one system, flexi in the other. They're pretty, they're nice, they're monstrously powerful, but they're not really something we're likely to rush out and buy. This, on the other hand, this is something we're going to buy. Glacier series liquid cooling hardware. Updated components. That is the standout part. I'm going to come to it in a moment. Here we have a pair of CPU blocks that have been revised. They're now larger for aesthetic reasons to overhang the edge of the CPU socket to cover up the nasty CPU socket part of the motherboard. Purely for prettiness. Here we have a Glacier. Actually, I'm not sure whether this is the Radeon 7 block, and they're also doing a block for the Strix 2070, which will also apply to the Strix 2060. So that's obviously good if you've got those particular graphics cards. We have some revised reservoirs which are now full transparent, whereas they used to have a black back panel. And then we have this distro plate. This distro plate goes at the back of your case, and anywhere that a 140 fan will go, they tell me, this will go. We agreed to disagree that some mini ITX systems might not be compatible because mini ITX can be a bit peculiar, but putting that to one side, if you've got a 140 fan hole space in the rear of your case, that distro plate will go in. Distro plates that go at the front are typically case specific. Certain manufacturers have a whole large range. That is a single universal distro plate, and I honestly never thought I'd see such a thing. A very quick look at Revolt Pro, Revolt X, which are two power supplies we've seen previously. The one can power two systems, the other you can use as a dual power supply setup. They are available, they are on sale, we've seen them before. And then we turn around and we look at the Enthoo LUXE 2, which looks something approaching what we saw from the original LUXE, but is completely different. We swing open the glass, we look inside, and we have a cavernous chamber. I think we need to turn the light on for this because it's all black. You pull off this cover to reveal a 120mm unit, is the best way of describing it. 4x120s. That 120 unit, you can mount an SSD directly there and on the back, and you can put it in place. More interestingly, to my mind, you can take this drive cage, and that goes in place. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and they supply all 4. And that means you can put in an epic amount of storage, or indeed you can mount your drive cages in the bottom of the chassis. So you can have a combination of storage and cooling in any configuration you like, pretty much, as we will see in just a moment. And in addition, where's the other piece of hardware? This accessory goes there and can be used to install 2 GPUs vertically, one above the other. So you can have 2 vertical GPUs, if you want 2 GPUs, vertically mounted for aesthetic reasons and also for cooling reasons, and that's all absolutely lovely. Actually, take that out of the way, we close the glass, and we go around the back of the case. And here we see the cable management. This door's been removed. So we've got this plate retained by thumb screws. Comes off like so, hinges down, covers all the nasty cable mess, obviously loads of hook and loop straps to keep the cables under control. Here we have some SSD mounts. So that's the empty chassis, and that's a lot of words. And this is the proof of the pudding. Here we have their airflow build. So dual air-cooled graphics cards, loads of fans. You can see obviously the bottom fans are in intake. The front fans are in intake. The side fans are in exhaust. The rear fan exhaust. And lots of RGB coming through the glass, air-cooled graphics. So a relatively straightforward build, albeit high-end, and it looks very pretty. And then we come across to this monster workstation. He says, stopping the glass before it bangs into the wall. So we have the Revolt Pro secondary power supply here. We've got the main power supply in the back in the usual way, power connections at the top of the board. It is a dual socket workstation board, dual workstation graphics cards, loads of storage, and a PHANTEKS custom loop cooling system. Soft tubes, as you can see. And here we have the totally mental dual system build, loads of liquid cooling with that distro plate at the rear, which just pops into place. And the humorous thing is, the description is that this tidies up and makes the cooling much, much easier. When you look at the cooling, it might be hard to believe, but it means if you look at it, you can actually see that each component can be removed without having to pull out half of the rest of the system. We've got a fill port built in the top of the system. Here we have the drain port down the bottom. It's just, there's a massive amount of hardware going on, and yet it's tidy. There are times you have to hate people, that's just all there is to it. That's just gorgeous. But the distro plate was literally the first thing I saw when that door opened. That's a piece of work. And LUXE 2 comes in at £189 in the UK, £189, which is significantly cheaper than you might have expected. That is a monumental amount of case for the price. Deeply impressed by that. That's it. Our tour of PHANTEKS for Computex 2019 is done. Lots of good stuff here, and it's coming in the next couple of months. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell button. We'll let you know about new videos as they become available. Return to Kit Guru. We've got lots of stuff coming for the rest of Computex. I'm Leo Warder for Kit Guru. This is PHANTEKS Computex 2019.